time, and we have quite a big crowd today. And yep, my name is Mr. Jin, or you can call me Jin. And together with us is Teacher Yiting, right? Teacher Yiting would like to, yeah, okay, all right, and also a mystery guest today, right? So yeah, I just like to, before we start, maybe we like to give you a little bit of orientation before we start today's webinar. Now, today's webinar is on is your child gifted? Now, this is actually for P3 and below. If your child is P3 and below, you are in the right space. Okay. So I think today we just want to have a little poll, a little, sensing of which level is your child in, right? So, which everybody, if you are in this webinar, could the attendees put inside the chat which level is your child in? Is it in K1, K2, N1, N2? All right, so maybe you can put inside the chat, right? If you're hearing us, put inside the chat which level is your child in. All right, hang on, maybe they can't. Let me see. Okay, it looks like maybe they are unable to access the chat. Give me a while. Let me see. Okay. Can anybody put inside the chat? Are you able to put inside the chat which level is your child in? Okay. I suspect that they can't. Give me a while. Okay. I'm right. Okay, guys, sorry. Would you like to put in which level is your child in? Okay, I just changed the setting. I say, this evening nobody responds to my question. I felt very lonely, Okay, we have quite a few of you. Your child is in P1, P2. Some of you are in P3. So anybody, your child is in K1 and K2. We also like to like to know as well. Oh, yeah, K2. All right. K1. Okay. It's a little bit pushing it. Is your child's in N1? Right. Okay. Okay, I think I'm soft, is it? I'm too soft. Give me a while. Let me just put on my microphone louder. Okay, tune up my am I louder now? Sorry, sir. I think yeah, okay, thank you. I think mine was a little bit. Yiting, would you like to test your microphone as well?
Hi everyone, can you guys hear me okay, or is that too soft?
Yeah, if it's okay, all right. Sorry, we didn't do a sound check just now.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you everybody. Thank you. Okay, so I think without further ado, this evening, I think we want to do a very quick overview of what GEP is. And Teacher Yiting is actually our head of curriculum in the Eden Academy, right? So she teaches math, of course, and also at the same time she was a school teacher, right? And in the school that she was teaching in, also there is a gifted program, GEP program. So of course she's somebody who is a go-to person to ask any questions pertaining to GEP. And of course today we are in for a treat for a mystery guest. Now, this mystery guest is somebody who is one of our parents, and she has actually gone. Her children are already in past the GEP stage, and I thought maybe I'll just invite her to come to share with us the experience of letting your child, the anxiety and all the preparing for GEP itself. Okay, all right. So we are seeing quite a big crowd this evening, and we want to make sure that everyone will benefit from this. So yep. Okay, I saw some familiar names though. Okay, all right. So yeah, without further ado, maybe I'll ask Teacher Yiting to introduce herself again, and also but her talk. Her presentation today, the first portion is could be a little bit dry, but I think it's important because this is, we have gathered all our information together, right, and present to you a wholesome information on what GEP testing is. So the first part, do bear with us, is what we call the necessary content. And then the second part, which is more interesting, is how to prepare your child for GEP. Is your child gifted? Now, sometimes we may wonder if is my child gifted, or is my child, he doesn't look like he's gifted. How can he be gifted? But you'll be surprised, right? So we have come across many children who parents think, I don't think my child is gifted, but you never know, right? Sometimes they are gifted in and we miss an opportunity. All right. So this evening, we want to clear the myth of what is GEP and all. Okay. Again, for those who just came in, okay. For those who just came in, would you mind if you could put your put your questions in the Q&A tab, because we have quite a few parents. If you look at my screen, the messages are just scrolling down, and then we are unable to catch if we are your question if it's being pushed down. Okay, all right. So the Q&A tab is on your is on the one of the toolbar. Okay, all right. We have some Q&A. Okay, right. Okay. Yeah, okay. I think without further ado, let's invite Teacher Yiting. Teacher Yiting may start. Right.
All right, thanks, Jean. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Teacher Yiting, and I'm the head of curriculum at the Eton Academy, and I've been teaching for the past 12 years or so. So I'm just going to share with you some information about the GEP and how it impacts the students in their learning journey. Okay, so for those of you who have just joined us, just make sure that you can hear us loud and clear. Otherwise, you can just let us know in the chat, and then we'll try to help you as much as possible. Otherwise, I'm going to get started. So alongside my PowerPoint, I've actually put in a newspaper article from many years ago when the GEP program was first started. So for some browsing information for those of you who are interested. Okay, but basically GEP caters to students with who require a different kind of support. So some students need more content to remain engaged, and some students need differentiation in terms of pacing. Okay, so the GEP is meant to cater for intellectually gifted students. Okay, its curriculum has extended breadth and depth. So not only do they cover more topics, they also do it at greater depth, and students are identified through two stages of tests and exams, okay, in P3, and they enter the program in primary 4. Okay, so I see some of your questions, and I'm going to get to them shortly. Okay, so so they're tested in P3 and they enter the program in P4. So what happens when they enter the program in P4? Okay, so some of them will be required to change schools because the GEP is only offered at certain schools. And then what we see there in my top right-hand corner, you will see that certain students, even though they have gotten into GEP, they do not wish to join GEP because they are afraid of changing schools. And however, okay, when they go to their new GEP schools, they are placed in intermingled classes. So that's a new change in the past few years. Previously, when students join GEP, all the GEP students will be in a class of their own, and then the mainstream students will be in their own classes. Right now, I think since last year or maybe 2 years ago, when the students join GEP, they are actually put in an intermingled class where they are mixed in with the mainstream students, and they are banded for English, math, science, and mother tongue. However, they attend all the other classes together, for example, PE, art, and music. Okay, they are also required to participate in CCA.
Sorry, Teacher Yiting, I would like to ask this question. Intermingled class in the new school. So that means to say, if my child is they got into this school from through the GEP test, does it mean that we're going to mingle with the students in the existing school, the one whom and they are from a non-GEP background? Am I correct to say that?
Yeah, that's right. So they'll be put in form classes with other students who were previously already in the school, not just GEP students.
Okay. So, what does it mean by subject-based banding for English? That means to say if my child is a GEP, he or she will be in the top tier in the school or something like that?
So they will attend GEP English classes and GEP math classes and GEP
Oh.
science classes. So
So
yeah,
I presume all GEP students will be in the GEP English classes, math classes, and science classes, except for those which are not subject based, which are like PE, art, they will mingle with others. Am I correct to say that?
yeah, that's right.
Okay. That clears the air. Something new, right? Thank you, Teacher Eating.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty interesting question. So I think one thing that parents need to take note of, or you need to be aware of, is that when students join GEP, the only time they sit for an exam together with all the other students is at PSLE.
Ah,
So besides that, the GEP curriculum is entirely different from the mainstream curriculum.
hmm.
Okay, so moving on. So just for everyone's information, okay, this is a list of GP schools, their locations, and the school nature. Okay, and so when your child is being offered GEP, as much as possible, MOE will offer them a similar school. So if they are in a co-ed school, MOE will try their best to offer them to be placed in a GEP center that is a co-ed school. If they are in a boys' school or in a girls' school, there naturally there are fewer such options, but we will try as much as possible to minimize the change that students have to adapt to.
So, if let's say my child gets through GEP, will I be able to choose the school of my choice?
I think ministry will offer you a few options, but naturally they
Right.
will try to place you closer to home and in a similar school.
So in your view, this is something subjective. In your view, if my child has been very comfortable in P3 with all his friends and all his kaki, does it mean that I mean, would it be good if I change school or so I think some parents are very concerned, especially when their child is very comfortable in the environment. Right. Would you advise what you advise us to do if let's say the child is hesitant to go to a GP school despite passing the GEP test?
I think this is naturally a very challenging decision for parents because how can you tell without foresight what's best for the children? So I think this is naturally very challenging, and it really depends on how much support you are prepared to give your child in this journey.
Mm,
If
mm,
they are already comfortable, I mean, just off the top of my head, perhaps they are very successful in their CCAs in their current school, and their CCA is not being offered in the GEP school. So naturally, you are choose to sacrifice their co-curricular activity for their academic success. And I think this is a discussion that you need to have with the children and see what they are comfortable with.
mm,
After all,
mm.
you never know what they are going to achieve until they go down that pathway.
Okay, because I think this some of what some of the parents are asking. Now, one of the parents actually asked is, what is the size of a GP class typically in our local school?
So previously when there were only when there was GEP form classes, it
Right.
will be 20 odd. I mean, you need to take this from a whole cohort perspective. In a cohort of 30,000 students, maybe 37,000 to 40,000 students, only 1% of students are offered GEP. Yeah, however, certain cohorts are smaller, but the GEP teachers are already in those schools teaching GEP. So
Mm.
we have about the low 20s to mid 20s, I would say, for each GEP class.
Okay. So I guess parent named Tina, I think you asked this question. We have actually answered this question live, right? Okay. Teacher Eating can continue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for your questions, parents. So moving on. So Eileen, I see that you are asking about the subjects tested to qualify for GEP. So in the two stages that they are being identified. Okay, the first stage, they are being tested on English and mathematics, and the dates are already posted on the MOE website. So they will be tested shortly after National Day. Okay, that's the screening. And then in the selection, there are actually 3 subjects being tested, which is English, math, and general ability. And that will be tested over 2 days. So the first stage screening is actually done during curriculum time. It will be a regular school day, and students will be given the option to sit for the test during the school day. Okay, and students who don't sit for the test, depending on which majority is. If majority of the students sit for the test, then the minority will probably be sent to the library and have a hangout. Or if majority of the students do not sit for the test, then the minority that is sitting for the test will be sent to the library to sit for the test. Okay, so typically parents are informed around the beginning of October if their children pass the screening and have been selected for selection. Okay. So that's the identification process, and then towards early November, we will be informed about whether or not our children have qualified for GEP, and then that's when they decide whether or not they want to change schools and which schools they want to go to.
Right. I believe among our crowd, there are some who are actually whose child is in P3, right? So I think anyone, your child is sitting for the GEP screening test this coming August. I believe there are few of you. I thought so. Well, but if you are, yep, okay. Right. So typically, I think what Teacher Yiting is talking about is that the GEP screening test will be in August. That is the first round. Am I correct to say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the second round will be more in I think October. But if I'm not wrong, P3 they are normally having the GEP test as well as their end of year exams around the same period. Yeah, within the span of 2 weeks. So it kind of like a little bit of a preparation for the parents as well as for the child as well. Am I correct to say that, Teacher Yiting?
Yeah, that's right. So they will have a lot to manage. So that's also a form of preparation, that if they are keen on qualifying for GEP or getting into GEP, then they need to be emotionally ready to sit for all these exams all in the same time.
Okay, all right. So there are some parents who have been asking, how GEP decides school? Sorry, Tina, maybe you want to reframe that question again. How GEP decides school? That's your question, but I think has actually asked what are the subjects tested for GEP. If you can, you may want to take down this the slides over here. I think it's quite relevant, right? Okay, as to some of you who ask, when is a good time to prep your child or embark on the journey to prep for GEP? There is no optimal time, but of course, later on when I interview my mystery guest, I think she will tell you when is a good time. All right, so hang on. Okay, yeah. And of course, Fu Xiang actually asked, what if primary school? What if the primary school that my child in doesn't offer GEP? Well, every school has GEP assessment, and how is it being done? Yes, I think GEP test is being done in every primary school. Am I correct, Teacher Yiting? Right.
Yep, that's correct. So it will be offered, and I mean, also to answer Cherry's question about applying for the GEP test, I believe there should be a notification on Parents Gateway that informs you about this upcoming test. And if it doesn't, I think you're definitely free to bring it up with your child's school. But I'm sure all primary schools are required to offer the GEP test.
Okay. Thank you, Cherry, for asking that question. I'll just click it as like we have already answered live, right? So I hope that we have answered some of your question. Okay. one of the parent asked a very interesting question. Is it possible for my child, is it possible for the kid to do badly on PSLE due to too much extra activity in GEP? But I think that's a very interesting question. Okay, let me rephrase that question. I think the parent is asking if my child gets into GEP and the class in school, will the extra activities that the GEP curriculum load onto my child, will it cause my child to do badly in PSLE? Now, I think the meaning of badly could mean could have many meanings. But I think what ma'am, you would like to ask is will it affect my child's performance, right? So maybe teacher Yi-Ting, you would like to answer that question as well.
I, on the day of the PSLE, I think many factors affect the outcome. So it might not be because they're in GEP and then they have had so many activities. It could also be that they've had a stomach ache and stuff like that. So it's almost impossible for us to tell why a child has done poorer than expected
Right.
at
So
PSLE.
so is it so if do you think that in your experience as a teacher, that the GEP classes in school, they have a lot of so-called what the parents have actually said, the extra activities, or is it something that is useful for my child if my child is going through GEP and he got into GEP and I'm ecstatic, but yet I'm worried whether when in P4 will it be too much extra activity?
So GEP starts at P4 and then they go through GEP at P5 and P6. Previously, we've also discussed that the class size is 20 to 25 students. So besides getting more attention, parents also receive more feedback from the teachers because they have more favorable teacher-student ratio. So if a child were to be struggling at P4 or P5, I think it would be prudent to find out from the teachers how the children are doing and how you can better support them throughout this process, since there is a better ratio. Furthermore, there are lots of resources available to support a child through PSLE, but I would say the GEP is really a very rare opportunity because it's only offered to the top 1% of the cohort.
I understand. I think in the course of my teaching as well, I have come across many GEP children. Actually, I think to answer that question, I feel that the GEP, like what teacher Yi-Ting said, it is a rare opportunity, and there are also resources, special resources being poured into the GEP program as well. And the teacher-student ratio is lower than usual. So that's something that is of advantage. And I do have a lot of students who went through PSLE in the GEP program, who have done well, but there are also outliers who have not done really, really well. But I think in essence, I don't think they do that badly. It's just not up to the parents' expectation, right? So of course, when they go through prelims and in PSLE, they will probably engage, oh, my child is lagging behind. Is it because there are too much activity in GEP? There are a lot of factors that come into play, including influence, including change in behavior, right? So I wouldn't say that the extra activities in GEP will hinder your child's growth. In fact, I think it will enhance it, on the contrary, right? Okay, I think Eileen asked a very interesting question. She asked, how can I identify if my child is gifted? How can I identify? I think, Eileen, I would like to answer that question. Just go for the test lah. Just go for the test. You'll know whether your child is gifted. No, I'm just kidding. I think there's later on when we go through somewhat the preparation. I think it is important for parents to prepare your child for GEP, not knowing whether your child is gifted or not. Doesn't matter. If your child, you prepare them for GEP, if they're gifted, I think it is I think it's a blessing. Now, if they are not gifted, It's okay, all right. But at least you have tried and put in your responsibility of preparing them, right? Not preparing them for GEP, and they are gifted. We would like to offer to you that not enough preparation may hinder their performance. I would say that, right? So yeah, how do you know whether your child is gifted? It's really go through the preparation. After the preparation, go for the test, right? You probably know whether your child is gifted or not. Even right up to the point where before the test itself, you probably know already, right? But sometimes children surprise us on the upside, right? Okay. Okay. Yes. DJ Eating, you like to continue? Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a burning question is then how do I know if my child is GP? So I think some behavioral traits would be they are curious, they are quick-witted, and I think they are eager to learn. And I think perhaps day to day, their quick-wittedness might be the quality that challenges us the most when they are arguing with us and stuff like that. So I think if they are keen to engage, typically I think you can always engage them academically in another way. Okay, some other indicators that they could be well suited for GEP is that they engage really well academically. So for example, in mathematics, the students who do well in GEP tend to think of not only the solution, but many other solutions and whether or not it will work for the same problem. And they will even think about why the different solutions work. Okay, and then in terms of creative writing, okay, they are able to craft very engaging and imaginative stories. And this is perhaps one thing that is different for the GP curriculum, because in GP they learn about poetry and different forms of writing, okay, which I think in mainstream writing they might not necessarily score well in formal assessments, because they will not be encouraged to write stories about time travel or science fiction in their regular assessments. But if they are keen to develop their imaginations in such area, this could be an indication that they will be well suited for GEP. Okay, or in science, okay, if they are able to set up a science experiment and predict accurately what the outcome would be, okay, they understand how to conduct the experiment in a methodical way and provide explanations about why the outcome is what we observe. Okay, those are typical indications that GEP could be a good avenue for them to develop their intellectual ability. Okay, and then I mean, if you want to provide such experiences for your children at home, okay, you can engage and challenge them, and then that's how you find out whether or not they are able to engage. But I mean, like Jean said, I think the best way is for them to sign up for the test. After all, I think for us as adults, it's important to encourage the children to treat it as a fun challenge, not as something high stakes and life and death. If you don't get into GP, then it's terrible and stuff like that. So, just on a regular day, you go to school, you're going to sit for a test, and then, just try to have fun with it, do your best. Yeah, and then see what comes out of it. And then at home, if you want to encourage them to think, there's always Sudoku, and then they can do experiments, or I think create a fantasy world with its own rules and stuff like that. I think that's very similar to their Minecraft and their games that they play. So those are all activities that we could engage them in and see how they do for us to determine or not whether or not they will thrive in the GP environment.
My child loves to play Minecraft. Does it mean that and then he loves to do Sudoku and like science? Science is his world. He likes to read science journals and all. Is he or she gifted?
Maybe in Minecraft. Yeah, it's possible for a child to be gifted in Minecraft and not as much as we would like in English and mathematics.
Yes, I think a lot of parents much like you will say, no, you should not play games, you should be good in math and science. But actually, sometimes like what teacher Eating actually pointed out, sometimes all these riddles and all that, right? If a child likes to meddle with them and they like to like build things, and then you say, no, you should study your math and you study your English. But sometimes it could be a sign that your child is interested and very inquisitive in his or her thinking, right? So that's something that the young generation is actually very interested in, right? So that's something that teacher Eating is pointing out, right? So I'm just curious. I want to kind of like tickle your mind a little bit. Uh, for the crowd, when do you think is the best time to prepare your child to embark a journey to prepare for GEP? Anybody has got any idea, or when do you think? All right, I would like to ask the crowd. When do you think is the is a good time to prepare? Right. Okay, give me a while. Well, I'm looking at the question. I think there are some questions which the parents actually the attendants are actually put inside the chat, right? Okay. One of the question is, may I know if there's a point in hot housing our children for GEP? I understand that some children who were hot house couldn't cope in the end, so they are actually not GEP material. What will happen to such children in school if they really cannot cope, right? So I think Kay actually asked this question. I think let me reframe that question one more time. I think she's asking, is there a point in making hot housing our children for GEP? That means preparing them for GEP, and then I would like to look at this scenario and like to submit to you kind of like after years of teaching. If a child is gifted and you prepare them well, they will get into GEP. If a child is not gifted and you prepare them well, they will ultimately not get into GEP, right? So in short, I think the test, I do believe after years of iteration, the test that MOE put your child through, the GEP screening test, is a very rigorous and also something that I think is not 100% accurate, but I think there's certain level of accuracy, because sometimes when we see the PSLE children, those with GEP programs, in the GEP programs, I think they excel well, and we can see the difference, right? So I hope that answer your question. Yeah, okay. So some of you say at K1, some of you say P1, P2, right? I think yeah. Let me perhaps DJ Eating, is that one of your last few slides ready? Not yet?
We still have a few slides on
Right.
preparing for GEP.
Right. Before I think our guest our guest interviewee is waiting on the sideline. So maybe we'll finish the slide, and then I want to answer that question about when is a good time to prepare GEP, and I want to ask a parent, right?
Okay. Okay, so I have just two more. Okay, so the first about GEP preparation. So if you're looking at preparing your child for GEP, I think for mathematics, okay, actually the math Olympiad questions are very similar in scope and complexity, and it allows us to expose the children to a variety of concepts that they would not have encountered before in school. Okay, so this may prepare them for different ways a single concept may be tested. For example, some math Olympiad questions would show the children an image and require them to identify the correct shadow for the image. Okay, and then for computation questions like plus minus times divide, it may appear a little differently. So rather than saying how many balls are there in total, if I have 3 bags and 10 balls in a bag, okay, the question may be asking them how many ways or how can we arrange 63 balls on the table. So the thinking required, though the mathematics concept is the same, the thinking required is very different from what they encounter in schools. And then for English and for language, okay, I think the ideal scenario is for all our children to love reading. But to prepare them for a GP, besides reading, they need to be able to read widely and variedly. So they need to, besides reading fiction books, they also need to be exposed to non-fiction. Then there's also news, and then different types of journalism, short form, long form. And they also need to be able to read from the different genres. Okay, so some students might be very inclined towards detective or mystery, but they need to be able to read variedly and to understand these stories to be able to excel in the GP screening. Naturally, there's also a lot of online resources. So, for example, like what I shared in the beginning, it's important for them to know what to expect on the day of the GP screening and selection to be well prepared and to participate in all these tests.
So does it mean that the Math Olympiad questions are actually very similar to the GEP test as you have mentioned?
Yeah, so in scope and complexity, and then because the way that they are asked are also different from what the kids are tested on in school. So these questions will allow the students to practice thinking in a different way.
I understand that there is this segment on general ability, and I think one parent actually asked is it included inside the Math Olympiad questions, or is it something that's separated the general ability questions in regards to GEP?
The general ability questions, I believe there is a mix of the skills that they are being taught in Math Olympiad and a mix of their language skills. So they need to be able to understand the question within the context and think a certain way to be able to address these questions.
Right. Okay, all right. Parents, if there's keep the questions coming. I think we see a lot of you asking a lot of questions, which I think we will answer in in good time. And of course, yeah. Okay. So today, teacher Ding, is that your last slide? I'm sorry, I forgot. You have one more slide to go, I guess.
My last slide is about participating in the GP, but we've already spoken about that previously. So I think I'm ready for you to take over.
Okay. I think on the sideline over here is actually a parent. This parent is actually a kind of like a friend of Eton Academy, and her name is Gladys. And of course, I'll be asking. Of course, parents, you can actually ask a question as well. She has maybe I will just ask a few questions in regards to Gladys, and yeah. So hi, hello, Gladys.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah. So, can I just ask, how old are your kids at this moment?
Primary 4.
Primary-
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand that your child Sophie is actually has gone through the journey of GEP. Tell us about how about your child's journey towards GEP.
Okay, so she took her GP test last year,
Hmm.
and initially we weren't looking like, we're just letting her take it and just like generally, okay, it's just another test that every Singaporean is taking. I wasn't like kanchong or, preparing her. So she went through the first round, which is very surprising for us. And when we spoke to the teacher said, you know what, she has been training for math competition since primary 1. So we took part in the math, training, Olympiad training since primary 1, almost like end of primary 1. It was just by fluke. I said, hey, you know what? School holiday coming, you don't have tuition, you don't have enrichment, you don't have anything to do. Why don't you just go try holiday classes? So she did that, and the teacher was like, every other day was telling us, and even telling her grandma, say, hey, you know what? Let Sophie do the math competition. Let Sophie do the math competition. I was like, okay, let's try. And then it helps that she listens in class and she actually asks a lot of questions. She's one of the only student who asks a lot of questions. So that's when we realized that, hey, she is like what Eating said, there's a lot of curiosity in her. So yeah, so that's when we started, okay, just do it. And when she came back from her GP first round, she said, hey, mommy, you know what? A lot of questions is like what I did in Math Olympiad, all the preparations that you did for me. So I was
Right.
like, yeah, okay. So I noticed that, then I started to go through with her, and I noticed that a lot of the questions are structured in a way for how the child would think, exposing them to think outside the box, and also patterns and visuals over
Mm.
that. So it helps that the center actually encourage her, make the whole class fun, like every day
Right.
is a fun class and not like really studying.
So can I ask a question? When you enroll Sophie into a class preparing for Math Olympiad and all, right? Do you have like the GEP destination in mind, or is it like I just want to expose her? What are the thought processes as a parent?
To be honest, GP didn't come to my mind initially. So I was like, okay, and it was the center who said, hey, GP is coming soon. Let's start preparing her. Then I was like, what? Preparing GP? And then I said that, I didn't start from when she's young. Then she said that actually, when she started her Math Olympiad, it's a form of preparation for her already.
Right,
So
right.
yeah, so that's why it didn't come until much later for us. But it was a I would say a foresight that she started with Math Olympiad already.
Can I just ask, in terms of preparation, or in terms of like, how young do you think that a child should prepare for GEP? Like, or should engage in kind of like Math Olympiad? How young should it be? Should it be like P3, or is it P2, or is it even P1?
Uh, to be honest, I'm glad I started her in P1 and not later. In fact, I should have started earlier. Because
Wait. You said earlier.
I mean like
Earlier
P1
is
start
K2,
P1 start of P1. Why I would say that is it actually helps in her normal school math. She doesn't have any problems in understanding the questions because she is they already taught her how to think of the box. The understanding of questions are already there. So I think, starting earlier, like maybe the start of P1 is good. And also, in a way, I think that, having English being encompassed inside will help. I mean, Sophie reads a lot. And I think when Eating said that love reading, she really reads a wide genre of books over here, from fiction to non-fiction. In fact, she was being encouraged to read books that are listed in the GP list. So I think P1 is a good time to start.
You're scaring the parents here. I think
No,
some already P2.
yeah, I mean, coming as a parent who has gone through it, so
Do you think that starting early is better than starting like in P2, or like, or is it does it make a difference? I would say, yeah.
uh, to be honest, I think it's never too late, to start. I think that they will still be able to pick it up. There's always questions for the kids to still ask, and of course, parents themselves can can give them like widely published SESMO questions that are closely related to GB questions, math questions.
You were saying SESMO, right? I think
Yes.
a lot of parents over here, they do not know what the SESMO means. I think it's yeah, basically is annually they will go for a Math Olympiad test, and these are the SESMO questions are actually from the questions from the test. You would like to call it a 5-year series, if you like to call it, right? Yeah. So what other things do you do to prepare your child for GEP? I mean, yeah, Gladys would like to find out from you as well.
I think I ask more questions, I also go through more words. Fortunately, she likes to read, so I let her read more. I went through more Math Olympiad questions. And also because of Math Olympiad, she goes through competition. It eases her through, going into a GEP exam, it's not like, you know, a lot of kids or a lot of even adults going through something the first time, I believe, because now primary 3 doesn't have midterm exams. So they don't feel so anxious. They don't it's like, oh, okay, you know, I've been through competition before, you know, math Olympiad competition before. So, you know, I'm just going to sit for another competition. So to them, the anxiety has been taken away in that sense.
You were saying, I think there's a very good point. You were saying that at P3, the first test they'll probably take is a GEP preparation test. So you know, there's you know, there's no way that you can actually prepare for. Sometimes the child actually have exam anxiety. You were saying that Sophie didn't have it because she's used to having multiple tests already,
Yes.
right? So that. Yeah,
Yes,
I think
right.
parents, that's one very good point that you can take note in terms of, like, you know, preparing your child to go for, you know, multiples competition. But having said that, it doesn't mean that you need to put them through it just to make sure that they pass GEP test. Can I just ask a very controversial question? Do you think that you can prepare your child for GEP? Do you think that you know, like you can actually train them for GEP? That's a very controversial question that I asked. Yeah.
I'll say that, you know, going through a training, it's not like, you know, a very robotic thing for them to like study something that is already there, but it actually gives them analytical skills and put them through critical thinking out the box, you know, instead of like, you know, like 1+1, like how Yi-Ting mentioned about the question that is being phrased. So it helps them to think out of the box. So I think preparation by exposing them to questions actually do help them to, you know, go through the GEP.
Okay. So not only the preparation for GEP is beneficial to Sophie, even whether he or she pass the GP test or not is not really that important. I think more important is that you expose them to like what you say, they acquire a different type of skills altogether. Yeah. So I think for the parents who have actually asked you know, some of them, actually most of our parents are actually in the P1 and the P2s. Some of them are actually in K2s. So again, I think to summarize what Gladys have said, it is never too late to prepare, but it is good to prepare early. So she was saying that she should prepare in earlier than P1. She said the start of P1. So I say, okay, all right. So the start of P1. So for parents who are K2, get ready. We will, you know, maybe you can actually start exposing them. You never know whether they are actually a gifted child altogether. Okay, I think before we sum up, do you have anything to say to parents whose children are in primary school and yet to take the GEP test?
I think it's good to prepare them. Based on my experience, whether they get into GEP or not is another matter. But there's also like I mentioned, they go through math Olympiad competition from primary 1 to I mean for Sophie's school. So primary 1, primary 2, they will not they don't go for the exam for the competition. But primary 3 onwards, the teacher actually selects them to go for math Olympiad questions. I mean competitions. So it just preps her, you know, to be more ready to go for such competition. And gradually, we also found out that, you know, with all the competitions, we can actually use it to apply for DSA in math for her for secondary school.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much for coming online with us. And of course, maybe we would like to. Parents, I think this is somebody who have actually shared their experience with us, and she has actually openly tell you where to get. Sorry, I missed out one question which I prepared. Where can you get GEP materials? I think you're somebody who is. Can I just say that you are half a tiger mom? Yeah.
I actually go through with all the assessment questions because it also touches like visual, which also like a bit of general ability. Yeah, so I touch more on that, and I actually let her do it and go through the questions. You know, it's important that, you know, we also guide them on how the questions, how to look at the questions at different angles.
Right, right, right. All right, thank you so much, Gladys, for sharing your invaluable experience preparing your child. And I think Gladys have another son who is actually also in P2 and also going through the same route as Sophie. So she's a very current parent, and of course, she has gone through it once, and I think we have actually invited her, and she's kindly accepted it, because I think it is also sometimes it's a little bit difficult for a parent to come on board to share their experience, because sometimes I mean not all the time. I think sometimes parents feel a bit like, am I being a bit too KS? Yeah, but and then but you see all the other parents going through that as well. Then you say, if I come online, people will think that I'm a kiasu parent, Yeah, so yeah, so thank you so much, and I wish you all the best to your second child, James, right? Yeah, and all the best for her GEP preparation. Right, thank you so much. Okay, I think parents, I think we have a few more questions who just came in. Let me see. Yeah, this parent actually asked, Tina actually asked, is there an option to withdraw from GEP program or not? If my child goes in at P4 and go to P5, and then he decided that, I don't like to, my child is unhappy in a GEP program. Is there really a way to withdraw from the GEP program? Yi-Ting, maybe you want to answer that as well.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, thanks for the airtime, because that's another question that's been weighing on my mind also about Kay's question on hot housing the children. So I think this relates to my experience teaching mainstream, and even in mainstream, basically when I give the children homework, they are unhappy with me. But when they do well, then they are happy with me. But if they don't do well, then they are also unhappy. So I just find that, in such a situation where I, as an adult, get to decide, how happy the children are going to be with the time that I have with them and the opportunities that I have with them, they are here to learn. So in their time with me, I will try to help them learn as much as they possibly can, so that in the outcomes that they can see, they will be able to appreciate their own efforts and the things that they have done to achieve all that. But if I decide to create comfort for them instead of pushing them in the opportunities that I have, then they would never know how well they can do. So in terms of hot housing and sending them for GEP, I think my perspective is, GEP and really exposing them to Math Olympiad creates a breadth and depth in their learning that they cannot typically get. And for them to participate in GEP and Math Olympiad, it creates an opportunity where iron sharpens iron, where they will be able to meet peers and counterparts who are equally skilled to challenge them further to do even better. And yeah, so that's my perspective as a teacher, that I would like all children to reach their maximum potential. And I understand the challenges in that. And to directly answer Tina's question, actually in all my time, I have not seen children withdrawing from GEP. I mean, from a result perspective, as many as, there are children who join GP and do well or do not as well as you would like them to, there are also plenty of students outside of the GP who do poorly. Yeah, so I think there is, between nature and nurture, we want to maximize the amount of nurture that we can give to the children so that they can achieve their best potential.
Okay. Thanks for that very I would say that it's a demonstration of a teacher's passion. and also an educator's passion to want to bring out the best in children in every, to the best of their ability. And I think you can see teachers Yiting's passion in helping children to optimize their ability and their potential. All right, we have a few other questions, but I think before we answer those questions, maybe Teacher Yiting can actually help us to share screen in regards to our last slide. Before we end off today, and also want to answer some questions, we do have our September holiday camp, P1 and P2 Math Olympiad, right, on the 4th and the 5th of September. Now, I think this is something that I think we gathered a lot of feedback from our parents who wanted to camp like this. And of course, after the camp itself is a 1 hour 45 minutes, your child will not become a math genius, unfortunately. Okay. But I think this is a foretaste of whether your child is good in math. Do they have the aptitude and things like that? But thereafter, we do have our termly class for our Math Olympiad for P1 and P2, right? So it's available, the weekly lessons will be actually available in both Sengkang Grand Mall, if you are there, and also the Woodley Mall, right? So the timings are as such, if you can take a look, but maybe we can move to the slide before it. I think for parents, if your child would like to join us for the holiday camp, you can actually sign up and scan our QR code over there, just to see, if you like to take a look at it. And I think what Gladys actually talked about was actually fun, in a fun way. We teach math in a fun way, and also with a lot of hands-on exercises, so that your child actually develop them cognitively, but at the same time, they will be able to develop that love for math, and also in the math, in kind of like a general ability question as well. So this is something, a camp to see if your child likes it or not. If 4th and 5th of September is actually the September holidays, and of course, this is especially for P1 and P2 parents, for P1 and P2 students, right? Not to mention, just to mention, thereafter, after the September holidays, we'll be having our weekly classes, right? Our weekly Math Olympiad classes. This is purely geared towards being able to do well for their Math Olympiad, and also ultimately for their GEP preparation test, all right? So that it will happen. If your child is in P2, it will be next year in August as well, all right? So some parents say, hey, my child is in P1, can he join? Of course he can join, right? He can join the weekly class as well, because sometimes math sometimes no boundaries. I have actually taught P3 Math Olympiad, where there was a P1 child who joined us. All right, so this is something very, very interesting. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have a P1 child in my P3 class. That's something that I don't know how to handle. But it turns out that the P1 child turns out to be better than the P3 child. All right, so sometimes it can it will surprise you on the upside, right? So okay, some questions, but I think before the question, parents, you can scan on the QR code as well. Yeah, just a few more minutes and before we end the day. Cherry asked, may I ask which center did you send Sophie for in Math Olympiad questions? All right, it's on the screen. Okay, so the second one, second parent asks, where do we get Math Olympiad questions for the prep? Now, actually, if you want to get the questions for prep, it's called SASMO, SASMO. You can Google and find out some of the past year Math Olympiad questions. Okay, and then you can download them, you can print them, and let your child do it. One parent asks, is it possible for my child to join GEP for just one subject if they are only gifted in that area? Just to answer that question, unfortunately, not really, right? They are, a GEP means that your child is gifted. It will be, in totality, English, math, and science, right? Okay, I hope I've answered that question, and thank you so much. If there's any other questions which we have not answered, you can actually send your questions to us and we will try our best to answer. I think that one parent actually asked if we are able to provide the recording link. Yes, definitely we will send you a recording link if you actually ask for it. Of course, we will. This session is recorded as well. All right. So I hope that this is beneficial for everybody. We are 3 minutes over time, but I think it is good value. We provide good value for you. And of course, if you are if your child you want to see whether your child is gifted, it's a good taster to come for our September holiday camp, right? If you take a look, they are trained by two very experienced trainer, teacher Jade, and as well as who is the other teacher, Stephanie, right? So they are two very, very experienced teachers who actually will bring your child through the P1 and P2 math Olympiad. Okay, I think we have thank you so much. And okay. Thank you for coming on board. And I didn't do really a lot, but I think Teacher Yiting actually did a lot of preparation, right? So can we just thank Teacher Yiting for that, that collating that information for us. And of course, before we end today's session, all right, we'd like to thank you for coming on board. And if you know us, you can just say hi to us. All right. Okay. Thank you, Fu Xiang, for that compliment. Right. We are glad that it's useful. Thank you, Cherry. Thank you, Gladys. Right. That's all for our webinars today. All right. We hope that we will provide you more values and look out for more webinars to come in the month of September and October. Okay. All right. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. Good night.